continue with our media availabilities this morning. We are now joined by Kyle Busch, driver of the number 8 Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing. If you have a question for Kyle, just raise your hand and we'll get you a mic and we'll jump right into the questions. We'll start with Nate over here and then Bob.
Nate Ryan, ABC Sports. Kyle, the Hamlin-Larson incident at Pocono, what's your take on forcing someone to make a choice between lifting or potentially hitting the wall when you get underneath them? Is it a fair move? And Denny said that it's something that's become like an accepted way of doing business the last 10 years. Would you agree with that in your time in NASCAR?
Yeah, so I mean, there's different ways of characterizing driving styles, right? But also, I guess, racing styles and how aggressive you are and, you know, slide jobs or forcing somebody out of the groove and making them lift or whatever. And with the cars being more equal this day and age, yeah, you don't want to get stuck side by side with somebody and allow a third place guy to kind of come into the fray and make it a three-way battle. So you want to disperse of that guy as fast as you can, and the easiest way to do that is run him out of the groove. Whether that's dirty or not, it kind of is what it is. But Denny might be a little remiss and forgotten about him doing that same move to me back in 2010 or 11 at the All-Star race and putting me in the fence off of 2. So he's done it for a lot longer than 10 years.
Is it, you said, is it dirty or not? Do you think it's dirty? And would you do it for a win?
Yeah, I mean, I think in certain circumstances, you know, you try to win races as clean as you can, right? I mean, that's always kind of been my way of being brought up. And, you know, you got to have a race car to go to the next week with. And so if you're crashing your stuff or somebody else's stuff, they're going to come back and crash you later. So, you know, that, I don't know, just if I was in that same boat, I'm going to try to race it out and do the best I can to figure out how to make a side draft and make a slide job where I'm clear and I can take that guy's air, not just, you know, force him up the track, door to door and into the wall.
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. I guess from a driver's standpoint, what's the difference between what we saw last week versus what you would see at a short track as far as like a bump and run for the win?
Well, I mean, the bump and run scenario, that might even be a worse cheap shot, you know. Carl, 2017 here, is that right? So keep bringing him up. I'll keep telling you that it happened to me. You know, just you flat out run into the corner deeper than you know your car's going to stick, and you use the guy in front of you as a brake, and that's kind of what happens in the bump and run sometimes. I mean, my issue with Junior here in 2008 was we were racing, battling hard side by side, and you know, you keep inching into the corner a little bit deeper every single time, and there's going to be a time where you go over that limit and you slip, and that was me, and made contact with him. And so, you know, that to me, like, we were side by side for 3 laps. It was kind of building up. It was going to be inevitable, but you know, those are hard racing moments, and those are moments in which you're pushing a little bit more. When you get side by side with somebody for the first chance and you just whack them out, you know, that's not racing, that's whacking.
And so when you, like in the situation we saw last week, does it matter who's on the outside as far as like maybe how long you race them, quote unquote clean?
Yeah, no, I would say it definitely matters, you know, who you're around and who you're racing with and what their history is and what your history with them is on how they're, you know, going to be raced, or how you think you should race them.
Go to Lane in the back.
Lane Casadante, CBS 6 here in Richmond. Along those lines, how do you defend against a move like that? Because outside of being faster than somebody else and not giving them the opportunity, how do you defend against that? Because driving defensively seems to be counterproductive to what has made you guys successful in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's the tough part, right? You know, if you're Larson in that situation, do you just lift out of the gas once Denny gets alongside of you? No, like, you have to put trust and faith in that guy that he's going to be able to run you as you would expect to be ran, and not have to lift. I mean, if Larson lifts and brushes the wall, he loses 8 spots on that straightaway, you know? So really you're in a no-win situation when you're that guy on the outside like that.
We'll go to Al and then Lee.
Yeah, Kyle, many, many years ago, Robin Pemberton said, boys have at it. Remember that?
It might have been here.
Now we are told that this is a self-policing sport. But people are being suspended now for doing things that Robin Pemberton told them years ago was okay. Where do you come down on boys have at it, police yourselves, or we'll suspend you if we want to?
Well, I think in some of the suspension cases, it was a bit egregious. It was a bit much. I was probably close to that with my incident with Harvick. Man, I am giving a history lesson today, boys and girls. 2010 or 11, I think, at Darlington, I hooked Harvick in the right rear, and that today would have been grounds for suspension in that one. But we had a history, and we had a run-in, and he ran me in the fence and everything else. So I think they kind of waived on that one, just how we've been racing with each other. But, just there's a line, and they know where it is, and we all try to get to that edge as much as we can when we're mad at somebody, and you're going to have those repercussions when it comes down.
But the line has moved through the years.
There is no definitive line. I don't know if it's over there or if it's over there, but it's somewhere in this room.
Lee?
Lee Spencer Catchfrench. You race a lot against a lot of kids. You bring up a lot of kids through KBM. I would think that you take a lot more satisfaction out of getting a win the way you did against Corey Heim in the truck race, where you set him up and pass him and get the win, than Denny did. I mean, I think, a win's a win, right? But I would think, from a moral standpoint, if there is one in racing, that there's greater satisfaction in what you did.
Yeah, there were definitely some other moments in that race where I was alongside of him and I was loose, and I could have just stayed loose and stayed in the gas and ran into him and him wash out or whatever. But, I tried to keep our stuff as clean as we could and race it out and race it hard and clean for the finish. So, like I said, there's certain people that you're going to do that with, but then there's also how you're raised and your mentality of what you feel like is right, and you live by that moral. So it's, I think Larson's down probably 4 on Denny at least right now, so he's got a lot to get even.
And you won at Fontana in the spring. We're going to Michigan next week, which is a similar track. How do you feel about going back to Michigan, and what do you think your chances are?
Yeah, completely different racetracks, even though they're 2 miles, same distance. Man, Fontana and Michigan are so vastly different from each other. But I'm looking forward to it. We've had good speed at the fast racetracks this year, the 1.5 miles, the 2 mile speedways. So even the 2.5 miles. So I would like to think that we've got a good shot going to Michigan. I remember, I think, running second and third with the 8 car there last year with Reddick. He was fast, we were fast. And so we both had good cars, and unfortunately I got caught up in a wreck early on and didn't get to finish. But, seems like they've got a good baseline package for that place anyways, and so I'd like to think that we'll be fine.
Kyle, we'll come over to your right here to Owen, and then we'll go to Davey.
Hey Kyle, Owen Johnson, CupScene.com. So you had a strong win at SRX on Thursday. Does that give you any confidence heading into a short track at Richmond for NASCAR?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It tells you when you get everything right that you can do the job. So those cars are all pretty equal and the same and whatnot. And I was really loose in the heat races, but was able to kind of tune on it a little bit with the adjustments that were allowed, and made my stuff a lot better for the feature. So that was really cool. It's fun to race and get out there and duke it out with some of those guys, and to not have spotters is certainly different. I think you kind of see that, and that's sort of where most of the wrecks come from. Is it's about knowing your situation and having situational awareness. That's the biggest thing that race is all about. Like when I was running in the back of the second heat, like I was trying to make my way forward, couldn't make my way forward. So now I'm like, okay, if I'm not going forward, then there's going to be somebody behind me that's going to be trying to go forward. I better look in the mirror and just check and see where they're at. So you always just have to be on top of it.
And then obviously SRX has suspended Paul Tracy. Would you like to see that kind of model applied in NASCAR for that kind of move?
I don't know that he did a move. I just think that he had absolutely zero situational awareness and thought that he was far enough ahead of the guy on his outside that that guy should lift and get out of the gas. He must have learned from Denny the week before. So I don't know. I mean, that was completely blatant and uncalled for, of just driving up the racetrack and not having any care for the guy that's alongside of you and just racing. You know, they want to put on a good show. They've got a good product. They've got nice cars, and they just keep getting torn up because of dumb moves.
We'll go to Davey and then Holly.
Davey Siegel with SiriusXM. Kyle, you talked about your short track package this year and how you guys would like to get better there. Your stats at Richmond speak for themselves, right? How receptive has RCR been to your feedback on what to improve, not just on short tracks in general, but at this racetrack specifically?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it nonstop, you know, day in, day out, trying to figure out what it is that we need to do to get better, to go faster at the short track. So this weekend will be another one of those tests, just being at a short track here and trying to figure it out. There's really not a whole lot of short tracks left for the remainder of the year. You got Martinsville and Phoenix, I think. So this is kind of your last test before knowing that you better be ready for the Championship 4 and having a good shot for a title run. But, yeah, we've completely thrown a whole new idea and concept out there this week, so we'll see.
Are you confident in it?
I should be, because it's a damn copy and paste from somebody else that was really fast here in the spring. So if it doesn't work, we got bigger issues.
Holly and then Jordan.
That was going to be what my question was, but you specifically have been so good here, finished all but one lap you've ever competed in all of these races. So how much are you able to make an impact to kind of close the gap and get it where you need to be?
Yeah, that one lap killed me too. Knocked us out of the playoffs that year. So I've enjoyed Richmond. You know, when I first came here, it was in the trucks. It was the old asphalt back with the sealer and stuff. I was terrible. I think I hit every wall there was here that night. And then came back the next time with the Xfinity cars, sat on the pole, won the race, my first win. And that was the repave of this track in 2004. So just have always enjoyed it, always liked it since then, always been pretty familiar with how to get around here. It reminds me a lot of some other short tracks that I've raced at, including my home track in Vegas, the Bull Ring, and then some others around the country too. And how it's aged and wore out reminds you a little bit more of some of those places as well. So it's fun. I enjoy it. I've done well here, which makes it a lot easier to talk about. Would love to go out here and get another win or two, so I can get myself closer to Richard's mark of the most wins here.
Jordan?
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. Putting on your team owner hat, I'm looking at the Truck Series. Is there anything that NASCAR could do or the series can do as a whole to kind of curb costs more than they already are?
Find more money for us to race for. That's where it comes from. I mean, the world of motorsports is not getting cheaper. That's for sure. People costs, tire costs, just inflation, everything is really gone up. You know, so the engine program with Ilmore was a great start of that, but those costs have now, I think, gone up 26% or something in the last 2 years or 3 years. So even that's, you know, taking a hurt. And our teams are flying less. You know, we're driving more. They drove here to Richmond because you can't pay for that stuff. I mean, the flight costs have gone up $250 a ticket per person, you know, to go to these races or something like that. So yeah, it's you got to race for more money. If it costs more money to go racing, you need more money, and if there's no sponsors, you got to be able to race for more.
Kind of following up on that though, as costs have gone up, is there more that NASCAR can do in terms of juicing the purse money to coincide with the other costs that go along with fielding a team?
It's no different than running a business, right? A race team is a business, and when your top line and your bottom line, like if you don't have enough top line, you know, your bottom line is going to be black or red, you know. So whatever it is in that space that you have to work with, you know what you have to work with. And, you know, most businesses operate on a 10 to 35% profit range. And I would say race teams probably operate within a negative 30% profit range, you know. So we're always spending more than what we're bringing in. And that's why it takes rich people to do it.
Thank you for your time today, Kyle. Appreciate it. Best of luck this weekend.
Great ending. Thank you.